Thank you both for joining us. Bianna, let me start with you. What happens on Wall Street the day after a deal goes down if they don't actually make a deal?
Well, look, John, I don't have a crystal ball in front of me, but we saw a 2% decline in the Dow last week. If we don't have a deal, I do think that we'll continue to see a drop. I don't think it'll be as huge of a drop, unfortunately, to press Washington's hands the way we did in 2011 last summer and before TARP was passed. But I think that ultimately, when we do get some sort of a mini deal, we'll see a rally back up. But again, this only just buys us a few weeks because, as your panel noted, we do have that debt ceiling coming up in February.
I mean, will the counters, will Wall Street reward this mini deal, or will it be seen as, look, this really doesn't do anything?
You know what? I think we may have a couple of days bounce of the market rallying back up a percentage point or two. But I think ultimately the eye is going to be in what happens in February when that debt ceiling comes up.
And Leigh, have the markets really fully taken into the possibility that this may not happen? I get the sense that people assume, oh, they'll do this at the end, deadline, as it always happens. But I mean, does the market really see a failure, a complete failure, as a possibility here?
Not quite yet, even though we saw this 158-point drop that Bianna mentioned on Friday, and even though markets have been pretty unsteady, actually, ever since Plan B failed in the House. That was really kind of the turning point where we started to see this shakiness. For the most part, stocks had been building in the fact that there probably would be a deal. So things have changed in just the past week, and I do think we'll see some major impact on Wednesday if there is no deal, because the market hasn't fully appreciated that yet. They don't kind of understand why this is happening, as most of the rest of us don't.
But Leigh, don't you think, the writing's sort of been on the wall the past few weeks as well. Up until last week, the Dow was positive for the month, and now all of a sudden we've seen a 5-day decline. Consumer confidence fell for, as John mentioned at the top of the show, the second time in 2 months. So people are starting to sense the impact, and CEOs are as well.
They are, and actually that's why I think if there is a last-minute deal, I think we will see a rebound in the market, and I think that'll be pretty strong. But CEOs have been worried about this for months, if not years. I mean, that's why we've seen this parade of basically a who's who of the Fortune 500 has been traveling down to Washington in batches since July, August. They don't want this to happen. They don't know what this means for spending cuts, for tax cuts. This means they don't know what's going to happen to the economy and what's going to happen to the market. And that means they can't plan. Right. And these companies build in their budgets for 2013 in June and July. So in many ways, this is going to be baked into the spending we see for 2013 already.
And Bianna, you spoke just recently with the Oracle of Omaha, right? You spoke to Warren Buffett. What's his take on all of this?
Yeah, I asked him to get for his take, ever the optimist long term with regards to the U.S. economy. He gave us a statement as well. He said the American economy has worked well since 1776, albeit with periodic and sometimes severe interruptions, and will continue to do so. Berkshire will invest a record amount again in 2013 in plant and equipment. What's right with America far outshadows what's wrong with Washington. Now, some could argue that if we do get past this fiscal cliff and address the debt ceiling, 2013 could actually be a good year for the economy. The housing market continues to recover. We do see an energy boom as well. But, I spoke with former Treasury Secretary Robert Rubin as well, and I think he summed it up by saying that this really was a missed opportunity that we're seeing right here for some sort of grand bargain for a big deal to address the debt limit here. And so far, we haven't been doing that.
And Bianna, I would not count on these guys finally getting their act together in any significant way, even if we get a mini deal. Thank you so much, both of you. Bianna and Leigh, thank you for joining us here on This Week. And finally, your voice this week. Today's question comes from Christy Miller Johnson on Facebook, who says, my 16-year-old has a Twitter account with 34,000 plus followers. Where do you see journalism heading in 15 years? What advice to the next generation of journalists would you give? Thank you for that question, Christy. I would say that regardless of what form Americans will get their news in 15 years or 20 years, my advice to the next generation of journalists is to remember the basics. Know your history, try to get your facts straight, always strive to be fair, and don't be afraid to admit when you've made a mistake. As for your 16-year-old's 34,000 Twitter followers, can I get a retweet? You can follow me all week long online at John Carl, and I'll answer some of your questions online after the show. That's all for us today. Thank you for sharing part of your Sunday with us. Thank you. Check out World News with David Muir tonight. George will be back to start 2013 with a big with a big bang Sunday right here on This Week.